So I wanted to watch this video. This is kind of gonna be in like the same line as like the Farfa react, where I'm kind of just chilling, kind of just watching a video, big chilling, and it is Solemn Yu-Gi-Oh. I like Solemn. He is a goofy little guy. I've only had good interaction with him. I met him at the Bushy Road World Championships in 2023. I want to say. It was very funny because he recognized me before I recognized him. He was like, "Oh my god, is that you, Stevie?" And I had a mask on. I'm like, "How the fuck did you recognize me?" And I was like, "Oh shit, it's Solemn." Anyways, that was like very, very sweet experience. But he also does have a Yu-Gi-Oh channel known as Solemn Yu-Gi-Oh. And unfortunately, it is why I quit Yu-Gi-Oh. So we're gonna be watching this. It is a very chunky video. It's gonna be mainly just like a rant / like rambly kind of video. I mean, like, it's just like him sitting in a chair. I do want to kind of peek into his thoughts in regards to why he feels like he's kind of phasing out of the game. So let's give it a quick little watch. But before we get into today's video, this video is brought to you by Summoner's Nexus. Summoner's Nexus is a digital indie TCG that's been in development for the past 4 years out of love for games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Marvel Snap. The game is designed for a dynamic back and forth with both players taking turns simultaneously and neither player ever feeling completely shut out of the game or feel like they're watching their opponent perform a cutscene while they're comboing off. The game is currently available in early alpha, which is completely free to download and play on both Android and iOS, with a PC port coming in the near future. With hundreds of cards currently in rotation and a passionate team putting everything on the line behind it, I highly recommend for you all to give Summoner's Nexus a look at the link on screen and in the description down below. Thank you again to Summoner's Nexus.
Here we are, another one of these, a I quit Yu-Gi-Oh video. I think this has to be like a little tradition in the Yu-Gi-Oh sphere, you know, once in a while, if things have seemed too good or quiet or maybe horrible, I don't know, someone just has to go in a little gut punch, you know, not that I don't think mine was much of a gut punch. I actually haven't uploaded since last year, July or something. So yeah, let's tell the story. Before we get into everything, I think the first thing we need to discuss is that there's different kinds of Yu-Gi-Oh players. And the easiest way for me to, divide everything is 3 levels. There's casual, which is, you like the old series, maybe you play some GOAT format, maybe you play some Edison, maybe you go to locals once in a while, you might even, at the very tippity top, enjoy a regional with your friends and go like 4-4, and that was your day, but you had loads of fun at, table 200 playing Burning Abyss or something, that is casual. And casual is a big spectrum, and there's nothing wrong with being casual. It is perfectly possible that you are having loads of fun, with a lower power format, or just with the anime, or you just collect or anything like that, and I suck ass at this game, but I'm having fun, I don't spend a lot of time, I don't spend a lot of money, and it's totally cool, that's perfect. Honestly, you might be the happiest Yu-Gi-Oh player if you're in that category.
Why I quit Yu-Gi-Oh! The game is bad. So real, Aeroshell. The main thing that I think a lot of people should understand is that this game does have a lot of other people outside of the casual competitive player or like the mid-core player or like the hyper competitives like the Cottons or the Schmittersons or like the Quantals, you know what I mean? Like for the most part, the people who just play Yu-Gi-Oh! To have fun and not necessarily win all the time is a very real audience of this game that I'm kind of slowly feeling myself shift towards. I do not enjoy playing fucking Fiendsmith Ryzeal. I enjoy playing decks that make me as an individual feel like I'm having a lot of fun. Sometimes it'll line up. Sometimes the meta deck of the format feels very in line with what I want to get out of Yu-Gi-Oh! As a player. 2020 Spiral format. That deck was the most fucking AIDS combo deck of all time, and I love the shit out of that. At Emancipator format. But most formats, I'm not trying to play the best deck. I'm trying to play a deck that I enjoy. Think of Labyrinth during Snake Eye format. Tenpai, yep. Good old Tenpai. And I think that coming to understand these players' points of views is very important. Because again, these are the people who make up a very noticeable chunk of the game, if not the majority.
All right, so then we get into the mid-core player, which is something I think Team APS, started talking about. And if you're a mid-core player, I think you're the type to go to a regionals, you might even go to some YCSs, you've got some regional tops, you've got maybe a regional win, maybe even a singular YCS top at some point.
That's
but
me!
You are not a consistently topping YCS player, you are not traveling the world to go to all of these YCSs, you are not qualifying worlds, none of that. You might, top some regionals, you might even win a regional depending on, regional size or how hard it was or how lucky you were that day, but you're not part of the hardcore grinders. You are not in that conversation. That to me is a mid-core player. And then you've got the hardcore players. Hardcore players, in my opinion, are the ones who are traveling the world probably to get as many YCS as possible. Depending on budget, this might look different for other people, of course, but you are consistently topping these YCSs. You are in the world's race, whether in Master Duel or otherwise, you are grinding Dueling Book consistently to be at that top level, and you are in that conversation. People know you as one of those players. We're talking about the Pax, the Joshua Schmidt, the Jesse Cotton, the Hani, the LeBlanc, Ruben, and so forth. All these players topping consistently. That is the hardcore players. And I think it's very important to realize which you are and which you aren't. I would say I was part of those mid-core players. I've got some regional tops, I've got a regional win, sure. I have no YCS tops or anything like that, and that is 100% my fault. I did not test enough. I did not pick the correct decks. You know, when Snake Eyes was clearly the proper deck to play, I was playing yugioh because I found it more fun. When maybe Rescue Ace was best deck in, you know, yugioh format or something like that, I was playing Tearlaments, you know, just having fun. But I was still doing fine, you know. So I was definitely not putting in the time and the choices to be a consistently topping player. Why am I saying this? Because the way you enjoy the game is going to be extremely different depending which category you're in. For example, if the format is ass at one point, but you only play GOAT, that doesn't affect you. If the format is horrible, but you're only going to locals where you get to beat up the trap trick structure deck, who fucking cares? You're gonna have so much fun anyway, so it doesn't matter. At the same time, if the format maybe is a tier 0 format where the best minds are destroying each other and you get destroyed by the best minds, let's say, you know, a tier 0 tournament format, if you're a hardcore player, you're having the time of your life. But if you're not, you do not have the time of your life. So again, depending on which category you're in, different things of Yu-Gi-Oh are going to feel different for you, and you might find
That is a very, 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 very valid point. And it's something that I've mentioned a lot on this channel before, where I'm like, hey, it is something that I mentioned a lot in regards to like tier limit format, where tier limit format was an amazing format if the only thing in Yu-Gi-Oh you cared about was the most hyper skillful back and forth regarding this specific style of deck. And if you did not enjoy that style of gameplay, Yu-Gi-Oh fucking sucked dog dick. Yu-Gi-Oh was the most unfun, dog shit, horse piss ass format of all time. That was me. I was a fucking whiny little baby. I was like, tier limit fucking sucks. I was like, tier limit fucking sucks to play. I don't enjoy it. I'm gonna play fucking Madolche. Whatever. Madolche was kind of fucking real, by the way. It was so funny how that deck, how Madolche was so fucking good into tier limit and just sucked dick versus everything else. Like, holy shit. He was all, like, it could not deal with a Sprite Blue. But yeah, like, Yu-Gi-Oh is extremely format dependent in terms of what type of enjoyment certain types of players are going to experience joy in. You know what I mean? So, very good point. Very good discussion by the Solemn.
the format awesome or not awesome. You might find the game great or not great and so forth. So we have to establish this because otherwise none of the other things are making sense. So I was a mid-core player, doing fine at regionals, going to a YCS here or there, but not a consistently YCS topping player or anything like that. Now I play another card game, Cardfight Vanguard. It's a smaller game for sure, where I am a hardcore player. I will go to various events, I will try to qualify worlds, I will consistently be topping these events, be winning these events and so forth, because I have spent all of the time, the past years, to get to that level and also put in the time afterwards. And that is something I wasn't doing for Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's very important. You have to realize that if you try to go in Yu-Gi-Oh! From mid-core to hardcore, you are going to have to spend the time. I know a few months ago, Pac was like, oh, I'm still topping despite having this hard job and so forth, but the only reason that's true is because Pac already put in a lot of that time the years before that. All of those high-level instincts and then the connections you get from that are crucial. And I'm not just saying, oh, you need to know someone to duel. Not at all. If you right now decide I'm going to spend 8 hours a day on dueling book, grinding the living shit out of everything, and then I'm going to be playing like Iron Mans against the best players ever, and I'm going to do that literally 8 hours a day for 3 years, you will be a hardcore player even if you have zero connections today. Absolutely.
Yeah, he is like 1,000,000,000% right in the sense where Pac can be like, yeah, well, I work at fucking... Doesn't Pac work at like Fisher Price? Or like, I don't know. Pac is like a finance bro. And he's like, yeah, I have like a full-time job, but I'm still able to, you know, create content full-time and hyper consistently top. To be fair, Pac, you spent like all of COVID just shitting on people. During COVID, you were in the fucking hypergeometric time chamber from like 2017 to 2020. And then like 2020 to like 2022, you like tripled your output because, you know, COVID. It's kind of like if you guys don't know, in League, I used to be a top 500 player. This was in like season 2. This was like before Challenger even existed. And this is like my current Smurf. Like you could tell that I just play this game to like dick around. But sometimes I'm just like, yeah, fuck it. I'll like run it down on set. I'll run it down on Cho'Gath. Like these are not roles that I know or I'm like familiar with, and like I'm like very out of practice. Like I'm fucking hard stuck plat 2 with like a 56% win rate. Like who gives a shit? Damn. Shout outs to Garen. Holy shit, I fucking fed my ass off this game. But it's kind of like your skill level doesn't really leave you. Like I am still able to play like Yi at maybe like a diamond or like low master level, and like you can see that in like my, you know, my match performance. Like you can see that in my rank. Don't worry about this league profile that much. Shouts on level 5. Like if you're able to like just put in most of the time, even if you're not able to stay 100% kept up, your basic fundamentals will carry you most of the time.
This game, at the highest level, is extremely skill-based, the best players are consistently topping, and if you aren't, that's on you. But if you do not have the time to do that, sorry, you're shit out of luck. There is no way you can put casual time into Yu-Gi-Oh! And become a hardcore player unless you already have the years of not doing that. So now that we have prefaced this entire story, we can talk about why I quit. So last year, I was having fun with Yubel at a point where Yubel was actually pretty strong, and Shifter was really, really, really annoying. You would have Tenpai in the format, and you would just draw face, shifter, and oh, it's pass, I guess. And then they normal summon a 10 pi and you lost. Hey, you can go home. Hope you had fun. Okay, next round. Draw face, shifter, okay, pass. They normal summon a 10 pi, they won. All right, hope you had fun. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Why am I taking a 2-hour train to randomly lose to someone who opens some fucking bullshit auto-win floodgates and then go home? This feels terrible. Absolutely terrible. And now you might say, oh, but you should have just played the correct deck, which was Snake Eyes. And I agree. Again, if you are trying to become a hardcore player and you are consistently on the correct decks, these things will affect you less. But if you
Snake
are,
Eyes
which is the
still
large
lost the
majority
shifter,
of
by the
Yu-Gi-Oh players,
way.
Yu-Gi-Oh at certain points simply fucking sucks. And then you can say like, oh, but that's only like specific formats, it's only specific decks, it's only... And I started thinking, is it only specific format, specific decks? I started thinking back and I'm just like, I feel this way every format. Like in Kashtira format, it was like, oh, they'll hit Kashtira and then we can play fun Yu-Gi-Oh again. And mind you, I was playing Kashtira, because I was forced to. But in Kashtira format, they'll hit Kashtira, they'll hit Shifter, and then after that we can finally go back to a fun Yu-Gi-Oh. But then you think back, like right before that was Tier 0 Tier Element, and I found that fun, but everyone else didn't find that fun. So during that format, people were like, oh, but they'll hit Tier because it's Tier 0, obviously it's way too broken, and then we'll go back to fun Yu-Gi-Oh. But then you go right before that format, and that was like Scythe Lock Turbo, and people are like, oh, no, see, we're gonna hit Scythe, and then Yu-Gi-Oh is gonna be fun. And then during Tier format, even, you got shifted by Exo Sister, and it's like, oh, but they'll hit that, and then Yu-Gi-Oh will be fun. Promise, this time for real. They'll hit this thing, and then Yu-Gi-Oh will become fun. And then the format after, it's like, oh, we're playing these Snake Eyes mirrors or whatever you're playing, and oh, they flip Skill Drain, and now you auto lose, and it's like, no, see, these floodgates, they're gonna hit them, and then Yu-Gi-Oh will be fun. And everyone keeps saying that we'll return to some like mysterious Yu-Gi-Oh that we all know and love, but I don't think any one of us has actually ever gotten to play that Yu-Gi-Oh. I do not think.
So, very extremely valid. So again, like I've mentioned this fucking analogy like 10 bajillion trillion times, but it's kind of like the staircase where, Konami will make like this super duper powerful archetype where it's like, like here's Tier Element, and then like, but like it's a little too strong, so we're gonna have to like knock it down a peg. And then they knock it down a peg, and then they immediately re-release like Kashtira, and that's like a step above like Tier Element, and it's like, it's still like too strong, so they like knock it down a peg. And then they're like, and then they release like the Scythe Lock bullshit with like that stupid like base Scythe, I don't know, something stupid, and like that ends up that ends up being like a little too good. And then it's like, oh, here is new deck that is good, and then oh, new deck good, gotta revert, and then here's newer deck that is gooder, and then it's just like this fucking like a fish, like a fish, like a fish. It's very flip-floppy. It's very frustrating to be on kind of this weird back and forth with Konami where it's like, if they just fix this one fucked up Jenga piece at the bottom, everything would be fixed.
I think that the mysterious Yu-Gi-Oh that is fun that we will be returning to once the ban list fixes issue 769 actually ever existed. I don't think the fun Yu-Gi-Oh existed. And I know that's like very harsh to say because I love Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, this story is going somewhere, by the way. It's not just dooming. I literally got a Blue Eyes White Dragon tattoo. I love Yu-Gi-Oh. I love the franchise. I love so much about Yu-Gi-Oh. I love two monsters. I love
6 sleep tattoo, by the way. That should probably cost like $3,000.
I love Yu-Gi-Oh. But I think we need to have these conversations. It's like, I kept thinking, when do I love Yu-Gi-Oh? If it's not a format, maybe it's specific games, Maybe every format has its issues, but there are specific games that make it all worth it. And I started thinking, okay, how do I enjoy playing Yu-Gi-Oh? Do I enjoy hand trap wars, where I lose to a triple tactics talents? Do I enjoy like, a smart use of Imperm Nib, but then they open cross out and I lose on the spot? Do I enjoy that? Hell no, I don't enjoy that. When do I fucking enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh? And I think back, my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh is when there's no game-defining non-engine. Zero. Fuck your Ash, fuck your Imperm, fuck your Nibiru, fuck your Skill Drain, fuck all of that. Fuck your triple tactics talents taking a Rise Heart, fuck all of that. And I understand if you had a format like that, it would just be FTK Turbo, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying I want that format. I'm saying Yu-Gi-Oh is most enjoyable when not a single non-engine instantly wins the game, and there's like a giant board in front of me. I have 6 cards of engine, and I need to tactically maneuver through everything my opponent has set up, and I break the board and I OTK. Or the flip side, I build like a crazy board, and my opponent gradually needs to go through it with their engine, and I need to utilize my interruptions correctly to stop them from breaking through. That to me is peak Yu-Gi-Oh. Powerful engines versus powerful engines, just going through stuff. And then lower power versions of that is, whenever there's a lower power format where these engines, are fighting against each other. That is the peak Yu-Gi-Oh that I love.
My man is spitting fucking bars. My man has not said a single incorrect phrase or syllable within this whole little spiel so far. Yu-Gi-Oh is defined by its interactability and its ability to, just be, here's a bunch of fucking turbo boards. When you like kind of comparing opening hands with like hand traps and non-engine, it can be very, very frustrating. But when you're in formats where your boards are kind of defined by needing a high engine count as well as being strong enough to not immediately fold to like, a fucking normal summon plus extender, but weak enough that it can be broken through with enough extenders and extension. Toss format's like a really, really good example of this because again, like Striker was mainly just like, here's 20 engine cards and like 20 like 1-for-1 hand traps. And Salamangreat is a deck where here is a board that is relatively unassuming, but 2 pops and a counter trap is like very strong in like the right circumstances if used correctly. Or like Orcus is like, here's a counter trap and like maybe a send with like a threatening OTK kind of like holding over your head. Like those formats are like very, very sick. I love those formats. Those formats are like amazing. And those formats where he's describing where it's just you and your opponent, it's their board versus your 6-card hand, or your board versus your opponent's like 5 to 6 card hand. That is peak Yu-Gi-Oh! That is what makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Very, very fun, where both players feel like they have a real stake in the game and are able to play their hearts out with these crazy fucking cards that Konami has printed. It's why I actually really liked Labyrinth. If you look at like what Labyrinth kind of is, this is like a pretty old version of Labyrinth, but if you look at like what this deck is, this is like all engine. This whole deck is like, here are 4 normal summon starters. Here is like a weird fucked up hand trap that works with your engine. These cards, Fuelos and Perulia, these cards just draw you engine. Imperm, that's kind of engine. Ice Dragon's Prison, that triggers this stuff. Sex Cannon, this triggers that stuff. This whole deck is basically just pure engine. And that's why like Labyrinth is one of my like most favorite decks. Because you're never like playing with just like a bunch of hand traps and you're fucking like twiddling your thumbs up your ass. Every single card in this deck is linked or tied or connected to some other piece in this deck, and it never feels like you draw like a 5-card hand that just like does nothing, unless it's like fucking like Lovely Lab, RE8, and fucking digging around. But a deck that could be like extremely frustrating to deal with is something like this, where it's like Adamantipator, where you stare at a literally unbreakable board, or you have to deal with cards that just say you cannot play. Like think of Abyss Dweller or Appaloosa or an Aturia Beast, or like Savage equipped with the Buster Whelp, Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. Like these are combinations of cards and like non-engine and blah 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 that basically say you cannot play. And at a certain point, there is no amount of engine or non-engine realistically that you can open like your 6-card hand in this pure fantasy universe that we're talking about with Solemn, that is able to, you know, deal with your opponent's stuff. Like it's just, you cannot break an Adamantipator board at a certain point. And again, like Solemn Yu-Gi-Oh!, he's fucking spitting.
And then I was thinking, when does that happen? Ever? And the answer is it doesn't. That Yu-Gi-Oh!, that mythical Yu-Gi-Oh! That I finally defined as Yu-Gi-Oh! That I love, engine versus engine, just gradually grinding true stuff, it doesn't fucking exist. Now don't get me wrong, it will sometimes happen. You know, I vividly remember being at a regional and my opponent had built a full Dragon Link board with every fucking interruption, 2 Bestials in hand. I opened only Tearlaments cards and I played right through it. And I vividly remember that because I walked out of the venue so excited. I had to tell all my friends this was the most fun I've ever had in Yu-Gi-Oh! Just my engine and my plays going through their board was incredible. It was, and it was, the fact that I remember that specific game shows me that those games almost never happen. And now you could argue, oh, maybe it's because you just suck that you don't play true boards with engine. And it's like, no, playing true boards with engine is something I'm able to do. It's just very often the board is also backed up by LOL skill drain. Now at 1 I understand, but like backed up by LOL, draw, LOL, whatever card. And so like engine versus engine games just barely happen anymore. The only version is maybe the very low to the ground Kashtira, Bestial, Fiendsmith type of file versus another one, because Kashtira cards and Bestial cards are kind of like engine and non-engine at the same time. I do like what they're doing there, but overall this type of Yu-Gi-Oh! Just doesn't exist. And that hit me like a truck. Just like, you know, this game I've been playing for years and being just mid at because I'm not able to put in the time I should be doing if I want to go to that next level. Having the thought hit me that the Yu-Gi-Oh! I love doesn't exist was insane. And so at that point, I kept thinking like, okay, but maybe all of that is still fine if they start hitting those lingering floodgates. You know, they had been doing a good job, again, this was last year, gradually hitting. So I was like, okay, surely, you know, they just need to hit shifter and then a lot of those floods are gone. Then the format might actually start getting somewhere. And then the mulch armies started coming out. And that's when things took a turn for the really worst. Because usually when a deck was able to play shifter, it sucked balls. You know, like if a deck doesn't get to use one of the best resources in the game, being the graveyard, that probably meant that the deck was a fair bit weaker. And so, you know, when Exo Sister shifted you, the games where they didn't shifter you, they were playing a shit deck, so it was fine. When Flu shifted you, they didn't shifter, they were playing a shit deck, so it was fine. Kashtira, I mean, that was the best deck for a reason. But it was still actually a pretty low power deck after they hit Rise Heart 2-1 and Diablosis 2-0. So overall, shifter decks were always straight up ass. Tenpai was then a bit too strong for being a shifter deck, but I was thinking, you know, they'll gradually hit shifter. It's mostly weaker decks anyway, it's fine. But then these Charmies were straight up lingering floods that every deck could play. And now I know some people are all pro Mulch Army or saying, oh, you know, you can play around them, but I don't think so. Don't get me wrong, specific decks can play through specific Charmies, but Mulch Army Fuaros, to me, is it might as well be maxi. You can say, oh, but this deck can play through it, and then, you know, pass on a little board and it's fine. But it's like, yes, but 95% of decks cannot. You know, if Mulch Army Fuaros goes off against a Yubel deck, what are you going to do? You're going to Samsara pass, or you're going to give them plus 71. I mean, up to you, but one of the two is going to happen. And every single tier 2 deck and below is also in that boat. A Fuaros ends your life. It is over. So now you have to draw Ash, or call by, or play cross out, and welcome to the Maxi minigame. Like, are we really pretending like Fuaros isn't just Maxi for like 95% of decks? I'm not saying those are the best decks. And again, if you're a hardcore player and you are on the correct type of deck, you're totally fine here. You don't give a fuck. But that's not me. So to me, I was like, wow, this Yu-Gi-Oh! I hate, this Yu-Gi-Oh! I despise, is about to become even more common.
So fucking true, King. Spit your shit, dog. Like, my fucking god. I don't think I've ever met a person as eloquently spoken as this motherfucker. What a goat. But he is right. Like, lingering floodgates or cards that kind of just say, like, here is your fantasy restriction that basically says, like, you are fucked. And again, most of them are pretty specific. Like, Malice doesn't care about Droll. Mouse doesn't really care about Shifter. Decks that play Shifter fucking suck penis. Like, Exorcister is, you know. Lancia is, like, hyper-specific. Droll isn't very efficient versus, like, every single deck. Like, again, like we just mentioned Malice. But the Molcharmies are always live versus something. There's never a scenario where you're like, the Molcharmies are bad cards. At the worst, absolute worst, Molcharmies are Upstart Goblins or Pot of Greens. Think about like Perulia into Malice. Like White Rabbit plus a Bestial, you're giving your opponent a Pot of Green, which is pretty feels fucking bad, man. Like Fuelos against like Pure Ryziel, like sure, maybe they only summon from like the deck 2 or 3 times. Maybe like 2 at absolute most if they open like a mainly engine heavy hand. That's still not good to be feeling. Because the odds of your opponent finding a breaker that just shits on your board go up a lot more if they're able to dig through like, you know, 2 or 3 additional cards throughout their deck. If they're able to look through like a quarter of their deck and find a breaker, then like, shit dog, shit out of luck. But it is very frustrating that Konami kind of decided that the best way to introduce a going second viability option into the game was just like the most disgusting way possible, aka max C, like 0.5, you know what I mean? It's fucked up and evil, and I hate it.
And that's when I decided I'm out. I'm just no longer going to waste my time being mid at this game that I do not have the time for to actually go beyond mid. So why am I even trying? You know, I'll just quit. And that's when I stopped uploading. Now at the time, I thought I would not be making a video, you know, being all doomer and going like, I'm quitting and it's because Yu-Gi-Oh sucks and blah, 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 blah. But now I'm releasing a song with my band and I figured, you know, this is the perfect time to milk this and get some pre-saves on a new song on Spotify. Go to the link in the description, pre-save our song. I mean, joking aside, the actual reason I'm making the video is because I was at locals actually. So yeah, this story is going to have a happy ending, you know, stick around, wait for that. But I was at locals and there was a friend of mine who I was talking to and was like, yeah, I didn't want to make like a doomer video. It's just annoying, you know, I understand why some people do it because they're, you know, they will be missed and a bunch of people are going to ask where they are, but no one's going to ask where I am. Who fucking cares? I just make some Master Duel videos from time to time. I mean, you know, I'm not a big YouTuber or anything like that. And he said like, oh really, you don't have comments of people asking where you are? And I'm like, I never checked. So I checked. And it turns out on a bunch of videos, people were asking where I was. So I was like, oh, damn, I kind of left some people out to dry. So I'm sorry. So here's the video. I didn't want to worry you. I'm alive, actually. So yeah, so now I am making the doomer video. But before you think I'm a doomer, here is the happy ending. You can save my band's song. No, okay, I mean, you can, but that's not the
True.
The happy ending is, as I said, I love Blue Eyes. And, you know, while I quit Yu-Gi-Oh!, I saw this ad. You know, I don't know if it was not an ad from official Yu-Gi-Oh!, but an ad for a Blue Eyes structure deck. A Blue Eyes? Wait, Blue Eyes? Blue Eyes? So I was like, well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Sucks balls, but surely it can be fun to summon the Blue Eyes White Dragon once in a while. So I got the Blue Eyes structure decks, and I started messing around with it. I'm like, wow, this is fun. This is so fun. So I slammed the Blue Eyes engine into a 60-card pile, and I was like, wow, this is great. And I went to locals. And I had fun playing at locals, you know, picked up my Blue Eyes structure decks, rammed the cards in, tried to get some of those fancy secret rares, and just played. And I went 2-2 or something like that. I didn't know what the fuck all these Malice cards did. I didn't know what Rezal card did. I figured out what Detonator does. That thing is crazy. That is fucking, why would you play anything but Rezal? You're out of your mind if you're not playing Rezal.
Real!
Broken. So I didn't know any of these cards. I was just reading, but I went 2-2. I summoned some Blue Eyes White Dragons. I had
Holy
fun.
shit,
like, wow,
my man,
once in a while, maybe this is not too bad. And that's when it hit me. Yu-Gi-Oh! Only sucks balls in the mid-core section. It suddenly made sense why Team APS made this video about the dying mid-core Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. That's me. I'm right here. Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't suck balls. Yu-Gi-Oh! Just sucks balls for the 60% of players in the middle. The players who are not putting in the time to become hardcore or don't have the money to become hardcore, but also try too hard to go beyond casual. Trust me, guys. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is great when you're a pro, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is great when you just want to mindlessly summon some Blue Eyes White Dragons and don't give a fuck what the outcome of the game is. I had fun. And so the next week I went to locals again. I once again played my Blue Eyes White Dragon. That was fucking awesome. So that's the happy ending. I may have quit Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, seriously, because in my opinion, mid-level Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just a drag, but casual Yu-Gi-Oh! Just going to locals once in a while and summoning the ultimate whatever the fuck of destruction, that was great, and I had a great time. Now, does that mean I will start uploading again? Probably not, because I will have to become, you know, invested and actually care, and that's when I will become super frustrated again, and I don't want to do that. I'm at my happiest when I can make awesome music, you know, focus on my company, which also, you know, is in the music industry. I get to play Cardfight Vanguard at the highest competitive level without spending too much time on it because I've been playing it for so long already, so I don't need as much testing as in Yu-Gi-Oh! And then I can just go to a locals once in a while, pull up down Blue Eyes Neo Alternative Ultimate Your Mother Dragon, and have a great time, and don't care if stuff goes well. So that's it. If you're a mid-core player, I'm sorry, may you see the light one day. I'm not telling you to quit or whatever, I'm just saying, like, I'm having a great time down here, and pros are having a great time up there. If you're having a great time in the middle, awesome, keep going. But if you're not having a great time in the middle, you can put the time in to go up, or you can just get down in the mud. Get down in the mud with us, casuals. It's great. You can play Goat, you can play Edison, you can play Domain format, the weird commander thing. That looks sick. You can just not give a fuck and have fun once in a while and have a great life beyond that. You can still be part of the best franchise ever. Fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Fucking Duel Monsters. Don't give a fuck. It's great. That's all I have to say. And go check out my new song. It's coming out next week. You can pre-save the thing at Spotify, link, whatever. Enjoy.
He's fucking spitting. He was, again, I cannot think of anything wrong about this video. I think this, again, like I've watched solemn Yu-Gi-Oh stuff before in the past, and it's literally just been like, I agree, King. speak your shit. My fucking goat. I legitimately cannot think of a single incorrect thing he said. Like, yeah, if you are like in the medium point of player where you don't have enough money or time or resources to like be hyper duper competitive, or if like the hyper super competitive stuff isn't your primary goal, then realistically you should probably fucking quit. Not quit, but you should try to find goals within Yu-Gi-Oh that are not tied to your fucking regional performance or your YCS performance. But again, I did used to be a pretty fucking competitive player. I still have my fucking Playmakers like luxury B team jersey that I dug out of my fucking laundry after like 3 years. And again, like, that was a period in my life where, you know, winning a bunch of Coliseum matches was part of the deal. Winning like remote duel YCSs was like a big thing for me. But once you kind of move on from that, or those things no longer become your goal, you should always be kind of having this conversation with yourself in regards to being like, what do I want from Yu-Gi-Oh? You know what I mean? So that's just me. Good videos, Solemn Yu-Gi-Oh. Glad to see that you have seen the light of just no longer giving a fuck. Very poggers video. Be sure to go to his DistroKid. Save his video. The Gates. Metalcore rap. Give it a pre-save. Anyways, let me know your guys' thoughts on the mid-core Yu-Gi-Oh player, of course. And I will see you guys in the next video.